The college sports landscape is always changing, and on July 1st, 2021, that certainly was the case when the NCAA put the name, image, and likeness protocol into place. How has that impacted Duke? What new partnerships are now in place? We've got a lot to discuss and some breaking news we want to deliver here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome on to another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So great to have you here with us today as we're reaching the end of yet another week here on Locked On Blue Devils. Excited to see the Duke football team in action this weekend for their fourth game of the season against Middle Tennessee State. But today we got to talk a little bit about Duke in the NIL space. And our good friend Josh Cox is going to be stopping by on behalf of the Durham Devils Club to break down where Duke's at and let us know about a new partnership that's now in place. All of that coming up on today's show. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Please take time to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. You can watch us on YouTube each and every day. Like this video, share it with your friends, the whole nine. Your support means so much to us. As also, we're on X at LO_Blue Devils, and you can find me there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, let's bring him on into the show. Here is our pal, Josh Cox, back with us once again. Always you see him representing Duke Football Talks Section 17 podcast, but he's now also the director of ops for Durham Devils Club. Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, JJ, for sure, man. I dressed up for you today. I'm usually rocking something Duke, but this is more of a business call, so it's good to be back on, and I appreciate you having me on a consistent basis. But yeah, we're talking a little different today, right? A little different.
We are. And so as I mentioned kind of in the tease there at the beginning of the show, July 1st, 2021 is kind of that big date that everyone looks back at when everything changed in college athletics. Now players had the right to be compensated for their name, image, and likeness. Duke, obviously being kind of at the forefront when you think about brands within college athletics, everyone is really curious what that's going to look like for them. And here comes the Durham Devils Club. Tell us a little bit about how Duke has been operating within the NIL space.
Yeah, so first of all, the NIL world completely opened up, right, in 2021. And I'm assuming everyone who's listening understands there were some universities that dove right in head first, and just did whatever they could do immediately. And those of you that understand Duke University and the kind of the way that Duke operates, Duke did a little more of a wade into the pool than a dive into the pool. And so for the first couple of years, and I think there were many other universities across the country who took the same approach. For the first couple of years, I'll say it this way, Duke kind of dabbled in the NIL space and did just to see what it would be like, what it would look like for Duke. But then I believe it was, last football season, towards the end of football season, that transfer portal that hit immediately following the conference championship games. I believe at that point, everyone was kind of like pushed into the pool, right? It was just you were forced in. If you were waiting in, you're now in above your head and you've got to run with it. And so that's where Duke was. The Durham Devils Club previously was Durham Devils Giving Incorporated. That was a nonprofit. But as many nonprofit NILs started in 2021, they were quickly disbanding. And so there were just some legalities there. It was just best to not try to operate in the nonprofit space as we're dealing with NIL. And so that officially closed down on the DDGI side, December 31st of 2023. The Durham Devils Club had launched back in July, August of 2023. And so that is now what we now know for Duke Athletics as the NIL collective. Now, men's and women's basketball operate with a separate kind of a separate structure. And so we handle football and then all other sports at Duke. And so there's a lot going on. Every sport is a little bit different as far as what they're doing with NIL, but Duke is active and Duke is forward thinking and looking into the future with NIL.
It's so exciting, I would imagine, for all the student athletes that finally get to wear Duke across their chest, but their last name on the back of their jerseys. They've got their face, the name, everything that goes with that. They want an opportunity to earn some income. So looking at the student athlete perspective, Josh, where we've been at over the last 12 months maybe, and as we start a new kind of academic and athletic calendar, what is the student athlete's outlook on all of this?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, if I could caution the listener to not read headlines and not to not read headlines, but to take the headlines for what they are, to understand that certainly, absolutely, there are the couple of Texas football players that have to deal with the Lamborghini dealership. Certainly there are the Travis Hunters of the world, out there. I'm not going to act like that's not the case, but the reality is that is probably less than 1% of what NIL truly looks like across all sports, across all athletic departments. And so I would encourage the listener to look beyond the 1% or the less than 1% to what you're really seeing. So, for instance, in many Olympic sports, and I would say almost all Olympic sports right now, until this gets changed here in the near future, you have partial scholarships that are being given throughout. Let's take tennis, or let's take softball or something like that. There's a lot of partial scholarships that are given. Small portions of NIL can go a long way in that, and kind of helping these student athletes offset some of the cost of attending the university that they're playing sports at. That's a reality. And then on the other end, if there is additional spending money or extra money left over from, once again, the 99%, oftentimes that goes to like, hey, my parents don't get to go on the road trips, right, to games that we play, or they don't get to come to Durham that often and see me in person. And it allows players to help their families. And then a lot of players have, immediately started partnerships with nonprofits in spaces that they care about. There's a lot of really good things that are taking place as a result of NIL. And so that's the case at Duke. If you can imagine the Duke student athlete, we have Duke student athletes that are partnered with the Emily K Center in Durham. We have Duke student athletes that have done partnerships and work with the Durham Rescue Mission. We've had Duke student athletes through NIL that have gone on to do some internships in the different public sector spaces. And so that's really what it looks like on the Duke end. And as always, Duke does things in a manner in which is, 100%, at least for what we do with Durham Devils Club, 100% goes through Duke compliance, works hand in hand with Duke athletics as we try to bring the best NIL experience to our student athletes.
So then before we get to our first time out, and we've got a new partnership that we'd love to announce and show the world here with the Durham Devils Club. We mentioned it, Josh. People are used to seeing you on this very show and your work around the Duke football program and various things like that. As the director of operations for the Durham Devils Club, what does that look like?
Yeah, so for me, I do a lot of Zoom meetings. I can tell you that, number one. But my primary role is the day-to-day operations include relationships with coaches and players, depending on the size of the sport, the general manager, if there is one in place, relationships with inside the Duke athletics department, which includes, Terrell Smith being the main one there, who's the associate athletic director for NIL strategy. He has a big job, and he does a lot. And we work with Terrell on a day-to-day basis. And then also I work with our, compliance, our legal contracts. Every player that has a contract, there's a scope of work that they must perform in order, for that contract to be valid. And so we track and make sure that we are providing those opportunities and that the student athletes are fulfilling those things. And so there's a whole lot. And then of the overwhelming part of my job is funding, right? We have to fund this and help fund this. And so that's always at the forefront of what we're doing. And so, yeah, in a nutshell, that's just, the simple simple day-to-day of what goes on with the Durham Devils Club.
A lot to talk about, a lot of things to look forward to with the new year, and we'll talk about that with Josh Cox, and a guest will be joining us on the program as well when we come back after this first time out here on today's show. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. That's right, we know eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home those huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's keep rolling forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson here. We've had our pal Josh Cox as well, and Dan Libro joins the program here with us now. We're talking about Duke's Durham Devils Club partnering with Ascend Collegiate Services to really enhance the NIL support for student athletes. So, Josh, I want to hand it off to you for a second, if you will, and give us the proper introduction for Mr. Dan Libro.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we mentioned that last year was the first year of operation really for the Durham Devils Club. And so we put together some membership levels and tried to drive some individual, participation there on that end. And, quite frankly, it being our first dive into this, there was no director of operations in place. There was no executive director in place. And so it was kind of put together by the previous coaching staff even. And so some things worked and some things didn't work. And so this offseason, as soon as I got hired in the beginning of July, we immediately went to work on what is this going to look like for the membership levels. To be honest with you, we had internal conversations about do we want to do those? Do we want to have those? And so we landed on yes, and then it was about finding the right partner. And so we were connected through a mutual NIL collective. Actually, I believe it was Dan. Another collective was aware of you guys. I believe it was in Indiana, and connected us with Dan and his team. And we sat down, and I'll let Dan tell a little bit about the kind of what Ascend, the history of what Ascend really is and how they're in the space now. But we learned kind of where they come from and their path forward for us. And it was a no-brainer for us. We were honestly looking at two other companies to do this with. And after we met with Dan and his team, we decided to move forward with them. And so I'll let Dan explain a little bit about what Ascend historically has been and then kind of where they're heading kind of in this new space.
Well, I appreciate that, Josh. Thank you very much. And JJ, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I can give a little background on Ascend. We've been around for about 15 years, mostly in the charitable gaming space, raffles, sweepstakes, still a big part of what we do. We've got over 150 clients throughout North America. And quite frankly, the way that we've always structured our business and our partnerships in the charitable gaming space was we are a product and technology company, but if we don't provide levels of service around that to make these programs successful, our charitable partners don't make as much money. So it's always been core to what we've done about providing that level of service along with the product and tech. That really was a natural fit for us to go into NIL. And about a year ago, we were launching some different products. We actually thought the alumni associations would be a great fit for that. And very quickly we were pushed to NIL because that was where the biggest need was. And we started talking to collectives about what their pain points were. And certainly membership came up a lot. They had these membership programs. Many of them would get into market and they would stall. They would get a few hundred members signed up and then they would hit this ceiling on that. So when we started to work with some of our initial partners we built out the product itself. We're a software, we're a technology company. That was easy to do. But really taking from our charitable gaming business, we were able to apply the service level on top of that to help grow and maintain these programs. And quite frankly, what we're trying to do with Josh and the DDC is come in and provide them with end-to-end services around membership, really from member acquisition to member benefit fulfillment, all the way through servicing. And what that does is it enables them to grow and create a recurring revenue structure, which is really, really important. But it also enables Josh and his team to focus on their core mission, which is helping Duke student athletes, helping create robust NIL programs for them, and really helping the overall health of Duke athletics. So it's been a great partnership. We're really looking forward to this, and we're just in market for what, Josh, a couple of days now. So we're very, very excited about the potential.
Yeah, it's just really excited to see where this can go. Dan, from your perspective and looking at Ascend and how that puzzle pieces kind of fit together with experience at other places and that sort of thing, and looking to grow membership, looking to continue to support Duke student athletes. We talk often as fans about the big brand that Duke has, right? I mean, you see that D everywhere, nationwide, globally, and that sort of thing. How much of an impact is that? And in some ways, that's got to be to your advantage when you're looking to kind of expand.
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, Duke is a brand. Like you said, it's a global brand. Everyone knows that D. And really what that means is they have a very, very big fan base, right? At the end of the day, there's a lot of Duke fans that are out there. There are a lot of people that care about the university. They care about the student athletes. They want Duke to be successful. And we can leverage against that, and we've got to do our side of the membership program as well, which is we need to provide those Duke fans with value back for their contributions. It can't just, those days of just asking for money with nothing back are really out the door. We want to be able to partner with the Duke fans, be able to provide them something of value and show them and demonstrate how their dollars are directly affecting the success that Duke athletes are having both on and off the field. And it's a really big deal to partner with Duke on that, because you're right. I mean, it is a big name brand in college sports.
So then for either of you, what does that look like? Wanting to just, okay, I want to support the team. I've always supported the team, but what is in it for me maybe?
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned in the previous year, everything, first of all, was football only, as far as the membership levels and all of our focus. And so really at the turn of this new year, I mentioned, we all kind of got shoved into the pool. For us, that also looked like becoming a multi-sport collective. And so for us, we now support everything, as I mentioned, outside of men's basketball, women's basketball. And so what it looks like with our new membership levels is we are still, obviously in the fall, a lot of our perks and a lot of the things are football related. For instance, our September giveaway to our members that we do a drawing for is an autographed mini helmet from Jordan Moore. Okay, so obviously that is football related. However, in October, our monthly giveaway that we'll do just for members is going to be a $100 credit to the Home Field Apparel store. That's a new partner with us in the DDC. And so we're going to give away. So that's not sports specific, right? So if you're a Duke, women's lacrosse, that's what you're passionate about, former player, fan, parent, whatever it may be, that's not football necessarily. And so as we add on sports and we form relationships with the coaching staff and with players, we will begin to filter that into our benefits on the membership side. Currently, some of the new things we're doing, we have a new hat that's coming out. We're in the process of finalizing selecting that right now. These will all go out. Dan, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe there's a 60-day wait period for the memberships to stay active, and then we're going to ship out those benefits. But it's a hat, something new this year, whiskey glasses, branded whiskey glasses, which I think will be kind of cool. We've gotten really good feedback from those already. I believe in one of the upper tiers, there is a Brooks Brothers, like a very nice like blanket, one of the really soft type blankets that we'll give, and it'll be subtly branded with the Durham Devils Club logo, not loudly branded, so people would actually put it on their couch. And then for one of our other premiums, we're doing a Brooks Brothers, like it's like a travel bag / briefcase, once again subtly branded. But these are types of things that we feel like, people, number one, would actually use them, and they would actually, and then also it would be a conversation starter. If you're carrying that bag, it's a conversation starter on a plane. It's a conversation starter in a meeting. And so we think those would be good. And then digital, benefits. We are continuing to do DDC podcasts. In fact, later on this week, by the first of next week at the latest, we're releasing a conversation with Bruno Fina and Alex Howard, 2 of our transfer football players that Duke fans can hear from, but you can only hear from them if you're a member of the Durham Devils Club. And so, just things like that. We're going to do coordinator calls. You get an offensive coordinator on. There we go. You get an offensive coordinator on the phone or on a call the week of a game, and is able to take some questions and answer some questions there. So things like that we're continuing to do, but just once again with Ascend's help, fulfillment, customer service, just taking it to another level.
Yeah, and Josh, one thing I would add in there as well is, beyond the welcome gifts and some great insider content that they get, as part of being in the program, all members get access to the DDC Perks Network. And that is a network of over 18,000 retailers and restaurants that, as being a member, they can go and they get cash back directly on their card just for being a member. So they can go out and they can participate in these restaurants and retailers, and they can help Duke athletics, and they get to earn money back. So I think it's a really interesting value proposition for Duke fans.
It seems like the perfect thing for Duke fans to kind of be a part of, to help support the student athletes themselves, and getting the best players, supporting them in any way possible tends to lead to winning, which is what everybody is striving to do at the end of the day. So I want to continue this conversation and wrap up a few more things after we take our final timeout here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We talk so often about FanDuel. Of course, it's America's #1 sports book, and we've got something different for you. Through the rest of the weekend, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So go ahead and visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we're back on the show today. JJ Jackson alongside Josh Cox from the Durham Devils Club and Dan Libro from Ascend. We're talking about this new partnership that's in place for the Durham Devils Club, and talking a lot about how NIL has certainly impacted college athletics, and your company, Dan, trying to get into this space as well. A lot of people want to talk the future of these things and kind of the big impact that could be had. What do you see when you see partnerships like this that you're able to launch with Duke? What does that look like in the future?
Well, I think, the one thing that we're always focused on is making sure that the value proposition of what we do as it relates to member benefits is what the Duke fans are looking for. So I think that'll evolve over time. I think the feedback that we consistently get is, one, people always want to support their school. That's the #1 driver, but they're also looking for access points. A lot of times these are not the mega donors that Duke has. These are just regular fans donating small amounts of money every single month, or contributing small amounts of money every single month to be a part of this because they want to help. And if we can give them unique access points, and whether that's content that Josh and team are creating, whether that's events, whether that is, tickets, there's ways that we can get them involved. And quite frankly, the more value that we can bring to them, the more likely they are to stick around and stay and support. And I think that's where we see that going. Now, I also think that you're going to see really the intersection of corporations coming in and helping Josh's team to be able to promote their brands, but really utilize the student athletes as a way to be able to create those ambassador type programs for them to promote. Josh and team do that already today, but if we can build a robust membership group, we have the ability to give them access points to those corporate people as well, which is really, really exciting.
Josh, how is it? Or go ahead.
No. I was just gonna add to that. It's a way for the fan to really be an actual part of the program, whether it's football or an Olympic sport. You may say as a fan, I'm only at the $100 a month level. Okay, I understand. That's only $100 a month, right? I understand that. But at the end of the day, you watch your football team win a game, and you understand that maybe it was a small part of it, but you had an actual tangible, hand in that roster. And when you look at the Olympic sports, that money goes, further, even, because it's not football, right? And so I think that's one element of it, that you really can feel a part of the family, right? The Duke family when you do this.
How would you say that NIL has made sports better? Is it simply that the fans themselves feel like they're a part of something? The athletes are getting, how would you answer that?
That's a great question. And probably depending on who you ask, you could probably get some radically different answers on that question. But how has it made it better? Number one, I believe an 18-year-old adult can now profit off of his name, image, and likeness, like every other 18-year-old adult has been able to do in every other industry, in this country since its inception. So number one, I think it's great for the athlete. Number two, I believe it is great for the fans, because they do get access to the athlete. They can come on board as an official, partner, really with these student athletes. And then I believe it's, oddly enough, created some parity. You kind of probably thought at the very beginning that, like, oh yeah, your Alabamas and your Texas and your Oregon and fill in the blank, and certainly those places are well funded, and but they were doing this before NIL, right? What I believe you're seeing guys that are able to make a somewhat of a small living and play wherever they want to play, right? And that's the case whether they're playing at Oregon or Oregon State, right? That's the case whether they're playing at Alabama or maybe I don't know, a Miami, right? So I believe it's created a little bit of parity there. And then just shooting straight with you, depending on how aggressive that a school wants to get with their NIL. I mean, just today you saw Adrian Wojnarowski resign from ESPN to take the GM job at St. Bonnie's. So St. Bonaventure could absolutely, within the next 12 months, become a major player in college basketball, because they have a guy in place to help raise funds to make that happen. And so I think those are not bad things. Those are good things. Now, on the other side, and we don't have time to talk about this today, federal regulation to even the playing field somewhat, where this isn't the wild, wild west anymore. And those things are coming slowly but surely. There's the House case. There's the other cases that are being worked through right now. And so certainly there are some things coming down the pipeline that will help. The NFL, Major League Baseball, all the pro sports have certain parameters that they operate within, and it will be the case for college athletics as well. But it's just going to take a little bit of time.
What have you seen, Dan? I mean, we mentioned there are kind of a wide array of responses possibly, but how has NIL made sports better in your eyes?
I think there's a big fairness piece to this with student athletes. I think Josh touched on it. There was an inequity for years on college athletics and college athletes not really being able to take advantage of their own name, image, and likeness. And that was really this was the only place that was the case. If you were a musician in college, you had the ability to go and make as much money on however you wanted to, and it didn't affect your status. So I think it's a fairness piece. Now, where this goes, JJ, boy, it's anyone's guess. I think that anyone saying that they know the answer to that question is probably lying to you. I think that there will be controls put in. What that looks like, I don't know, but I think there will be some parameters that get set. If you look at what's happening with the settlement case, I think they're inching towards that. That will dictate a lot, but that also may open up a bunch more questions. And there's a lot to be resolved on this. There is employment questions, there's Title IX questions, there's just basic structure of how the divisions are put together. There's a lot to solve on this. I don't think it's going to get solved in the next year, but I think we're going to inch towards some sort of semblance of normalcy on that. I think the one thing that's very, very clear is that each of these athletic programs, they have the need now to raise funds in a different way, because those funds are going to be reallocated in a way more fair way. But they are going to have to raise more funds. So it really puts what Josh and team does. It really makes the onus on them even more important than ever. They've got to figure out ways to create different revenue structures to be able to create new benefits for student athletes and be able to create the same level of competition that the schools want to be able to have across all the sports. And Duke certainly has that.
Well, I'm excited to see how all this plays out and the strategy that goes into kind of pushing not only Duke forward, but NCAA student athletes forward as well. So, Josh, we're talking here today about Durham Devils Club. Obviously, people listening to Locked On Blue Devils love that school in Durham. How can people get involved with the DDC?
Yeah, for sure. So DurhamDevilsClub.com is where you can go. Join now. The membership levels will be there. Just as an FYI, once you select your membership level, you will be able to drop down and select the sport specific that you want, or you can do all sports. And then also we have currently a ticket giveaway going on, 2 Blue Devil Tower tickets for the UNC game, and then signed helmet from Jordan Moore and Malik Murphy, and that is also there at DurhamDevilsClub.com. And so you can find out more, and you can obviously reach out to me, and I can try to help answer any questions you have.
So excited to see how this continues to move forward. And then Dan, for you mentioned kind of a Sens partnership here with the DDC. You've also got way more things on your plate as well. How can people best support Ascend and what you guys have got going on?
Sure. I mean, listen, if you're a collective or an athletic department that's looking to really put a different effort against raising recurring revenue structures like a membership program, you can find us at our website, ascendfs.com. There's plenty of information there, and there's ways to get in touch with us. I think the most important thing for us right now, though, is making sure that the DDC is growing and that people know about it. So I appreciate everybody going there and participating. And there's an opportunity right now to win some really cool prizes.
Without a doubt. Well, Dan, the time is certainly greatly appreciated, and same to you, Josh, as well. Thank you guys for being here today.
Thanks, JJ. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And with that wraps up another episode of Locked On Blue Devils. As always, go Duke. We'll talk to you soon. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.